Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs will come to order. We apologize for the delay this morning. We don't like to start the hearing late, but sometimes we have to. So thank the four of you for joining us. Good to see all of you. Some of you have been in front of this committee before or have worked around here before, so welcome, especially to those of you. This hearing is in a hybrid format. Our witnesses are in person. Members have the option to appear in person or virtually. Hard work should pay off for everyone. That's the American dream. That's what the dignity of work is all about. It's a concept that Pope Leo XIII spoke of in the late 19th, early 20th centuries, and a concept popularized by Dr. King. When work has dignity, you can support yourself and your family and your future, but we all know what's happened over the last 4 decades. Corporate profits have gone up, the stock market has soared, executive compensation has exploded, but wages have not kept up with the cost of living. Millions of workers with full-time jobs who aspire to the middle class can't join it no matter how hard they work, and even people we may define as middle class don't feel much security and stability. When workers are forced to find ways to make up for the gap between what they're paid and what they should earn, what are they left with? Debt. Sometimes people have to borrow money. Products that are well-designed and transparent and regulated can help workers pay off an unexpected car repair or help with the grocery bill or cover a medical expense. But as we heard at our listening session with workers last week in this committee, too often these products aren't well-designed, they're rarely transparent, they're not well regulated. For far too many workers, the only credit products available lead to more debt and more financial instability. We've discussed in this committee the impact predatory payday lenders have on working families. Today, we examine the impact some newer consumer financial products have on workers. Companies tell us these new products are innovative, they're easy to use, they'll give people more options, but so often, innovation is just a new way for companies to make money while trapping people in debt. Newer credit products, buy now, pay later, for example, could help consumers pay for products in installments with strong consumer protections. Yet many of these products come with hidden fees. They lack transparency. They aren't underwritten properly. Ads encourage consumers to use these plans for multiple purchases at multiple online stores, racking up debt they can't afford to repay. Consumers like Brianna Gordley. As a college student, Brianna started off with one of these loans. First, one BNPL company, then 2, then 3. One company told her they were raising her credit limit from $100 to $1,000. Initially, 18-year-old Brianna wasn't too concerned. As she put it, if the companies, quote, believed in my ability to repay my debt, then I did too. With the approval of more and more credit, Brianna was juggling $1,500 in loans with different payment dates throughout the month. Her account kept getting overdrawn. Brianna's story gets to the core of the problem. With little to no underwriting, buy now, pay later companies don't know if they're the only ones a consumer has credit with. And without proper term disclosures, a consumer's left in the dark. For this model to work for consumers, we need real rules companies must follow, and we need proper disclosure. Then there are new consumer products that use a so-called tip model, structuring themselves to deliberately avoid disclosing their terms, specifically avoiding important disclosures required by the Truth in Lending Act. Products like cash advances, overdraft coverage, earned wage advances that are not offered in conjunction with employers use a model where consumers are asked to pay a tip to the lender instead of a fee or an interest rate to use the products. Companies claim that because a tip is not presented as a finance charge, or an interest rate, Truth in Lending and other consumer protection laws like the Military Lending Laws Act do not apply. The tip is just, quote, voluntary, they say. But of course, they're not voluntary at all. It's just a way to cheat the system and hide the true cost to workers. Employer-based earned wage advances with strong consumer protections can, in fact, help workers cover unexpected expenses or emergencies, though the better alternative would simply be for the companies to pay their workers enough to live on. Then there are debt products that are so predatory, so offensive, they should have no place in our financial system. Schemes like training, repayment agreement provisions, appropriately known as traps. I'll say this for that term that was invented. It's certainly truth in advertising. These provisions and employment contracts allow employers to recoup the cost of training employees who leave the job. It's an offensive concept. It's the employer's job to train their workers. On-the-job training isn't some special perk for workers. It's a smart investment for companies. Traps require workers to pay back their employers for training if they leave their job within a certain period of time, saddling workers with debt. It's a modern-day version of the script that left coal miners exhausted, destitute, and trapped by their employers. Remember what Tennessee Ernie Ford sang about owing his soul to the company store? You load 16 tons, what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. Employers use traps to prevent workers from pursuing higher paying or better opportunities. They decide how much the training would supposedly cost on the market, and they go after their workers, threatening their credit and their economic mobility. Last week, Cassie Pennings from Colorado told members of the committee about her experience with traps. Ms. Pennings pursued her calling as a nurse during COVID-19. At the start of her job, her employer made her sign an employment contract. Buried in the fine print, it said that if she left before 2 years, she'd be indebted to her employer for $7,500 for the supposed training they provided. When she decided to leave her nursing job after a year because of a bad work environment, her employer took $1,000 out of her second-to-last paycheck to pay back her training. That was half of her paycheck. Her former employer told her they will send the rest of the amount to collections. Last I checked, indentured servitude was illegal in the United States of America, but it looks like some enterprising companies are rebranding it with these new employer contracts. That's the focus of today's hearing, to ensure that so-called innovation is not a substitute for good pay and does not come at the cost of workers' dignity of work.